You all know how much we love ProCare. We talk about them all the time, pretty much in every episode we record.
Pretty much.
So we are really, really excited to announce.
They're sponsoring the podcast. Yay! Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
Yes. And we truly believe in their product because we take them every single day. I take their 1-a-day capsule.
Yes. And I take their 1-a-day chewable. It's freaking delicious.
And not only do they have multivitamins, but they have calcium chews.
Yeah.
Delicious calcium chews. The salted caramel is to die for.
Oh, and the cinnamon roll, guys, tastes like a cinnamon roll. Oh my God.
They also have dinner mint, but our favorite
is the dark chocolate for 2 reasons. One, you can have it at nighttime for a treat or make a s'more out of it. We've done it. Freaking bomb.
How cool is that? So go now to procarenow.com and use code OSLP for 10% off.
Alrighty, now go now. What are you waiting for?
Go get your vitamins.
Yeah. Welcome back, OSLP family. Welcome.
You are listening to our Sleeve Life podcast, and this is Kelly.
This is Mel.
And we have... I'm so excited. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. We are so excited to have Kristen Willard on the podcast.
Yes.
Yes.
So happy to be here.
Thank you. She is like, I mean, your posts are so detrimental to our, not detrimental. That's not the right word.
That's not a good word.
What's the word I'm looking for? Mel knows what word I'm looking for. They're so important to our bariatric community. Important. There we go. Not detrimental. No. I don't know where that came from.
No.
So important because you really break it down.
Yeah.
You break down like what calories is in each thing, what ingredients, and you show pictures, which are pictures are so important when it comes to food, I think.
Makes it so much easier. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on.
I totally agree. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love doing this and meeting you. I know we were just kind of chit-chatting a little bit before, so it's really just nice to hear all the good things that you guys are doing as well in this community, because it's pretty amazing, and I feel lucky to be in this community.
Right.
So, everyone's been so welcoming. Like we were talking about earlier, when I came into this community, I just felt like there was just a love and a connection, and people were just so welcoming. So thank you.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, what is your Instagram handle?
Mine is bariatric.meal.prep. So bariatric meal prep is kind of like the whole word. And then I try to make it easy on the eyes. I put the dot in the middle. And then that's my website as well. So, but it's all one word on the website, bariatricmealprep.com.
Awesome.
So,
and I would definitely call you the queen of meal prep.
Yes.
Like,
thank you.
For sure. Like looking through your Instagram, I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything that I need to know on meal prep is right here.
It really is.
I suck at meal prep. I suck at it. I know it. I can admit it. So I need all the tips that you can possibly give me to make it as easy as possible.
And first and foremost, like, when did you get into this community? Like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I originally started, I became a dietitian, and I think like most people, well, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people when they get out of school, it's like, okay, well, what do I want to do now? Like, what does this look like? And so I was one of those that I just took the first job. I was like, okay, I want to be in skilled nursing. There was a skilled nursing facility job, and I was like the kitchen manager, and I was the dietitian. Okay. And it was honestly the most challenging job I've ever had.
Okay.
But then I moved to the hospital position, and I really liked that because I got to just kind of work with people more often. I like the charting. I liked working with the doctors. I like the team approach, but even that in itself didn't really fulfill as far as being there with people long-term. Okay. And so I didn't want to go out by myself yet, because I really liked having people around me and not totally solo. And there was a position that opened up at our bariatric clinic. And I heard from one of my friends that was also a dietitian. She really liked it. And then I really liked the aspect that you got to work with people more than once. Mm-hmm. And you got to develop those relationships. Because I feel like nutrition just doesn't happen. Like, you don't just have a nutrition appointment with someone and then all of a sudden everything flows and you're off to the races. It takes some time and those small changes and someone to tell you, to help be your guide. And so when it opened up, I applied and they took me, and it was the best position I've ever had. So Aww. I was able to just work with people and kind of try to hit all the different notes. But what I noticed when I worked in the office setting was that it was hard to, I'd say, eat 3 ounces of protein, you know, like eat chicken, eat some broccoli, or and then when people came home, it like sounded really good in the class. They're like, yeah, I can do this. But then like they go home and like they're sitting there like, okay, I don't know what to do, or I'm just tired of eating the same thing. And that's what prompted me. That was kind of like the beginning of having my Instagram account. And so what I would do is I just started putting up visuals, and doing my recipes. And if you go back way, like it's totally a different look back then. I would do like recipe, motivational posts, and then I don't know what, and then I would share like other people's recipes.
Okay.
And then I did one picture. It's one picture that like really like just like pushed me forward. I wanted to say plummeted, just how you said detrimental. I wanted to say plummeted, but it wasn't plummeted. Propelled. I think that's propelled.
That's a good one. Yes.
Propelled me forward. And it was this one simple one. It was just, all I did was take a meal prep container, and then I put like a roasted chicken breast in it. And then I was like, step 1, and like that was like in one small square. And then step 2, I had, add the vegetable. And then step 3, I had add the smart carb. And then step 4, I had add flavor. And like, so it was one of those like 4 picture ones, and that just like took off. And I was just so shocked at like how much feedback I was getting, because to me, I was like, oh, this looks really simple. But I think having it broken down and like stepwise was really helpful. And then the next post that was also really helpful was I really realized that people enjoyed seeing how portion sizes change throughout after surgery. And I hesitated, to be honest. I did hesitate like posting that picture, because I think it's easy to get caught up in like, oh, my portions are too big, and like feel like that shame, or my portions aren't big enough, and I'm only going to be able to have like a tablespoon the rest of my life,
Right.
So there can be like variation, and I think it can be somewhat of for some people it can be like an emotional trigger, depending who that person is. So I hesitated doing that, but I also felt like it provided people a lot of value, and it helped like provide that guideline. Sometimes you just want to know the boundaries, a little bit, and then you can play with those boundaries, and I try I try in my captions to really encourage people to work with their dietitian, to work with their surgeon, and to know that these aren't necessarily like the end all be all. If you are more than this or less than this, there is a wide variation. So you really need to do what works for you. But also to recognize that it does, change with time, and it's normal for your body to tolerate, more food as time goes on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I think it's really hard in the beginning. I know for me personally, I did 6 months of nutrition appointments through my office. And it, like you said, it makes sense when you're in front of your nutritionist, and it makes sense like when you're thinking about it. But then when you get home and you're like, huh? I don't know what I'm doing. And like, so I think having an Instagram or something where it's easy, where I can save it and go back to it, and I can see like, okay, so this is about the size what I'm supposed to be eating. But if I'm still hungry, like obviously you need to fuel your body. So continue eating. But, as a, because not every journey is the same.
No.
My journey was completely different than your journey. And, we talked to so many different people, and all of their journeys are different. You may have common
of
things,
course.
but no 2 surgeries are exactly alike.
No. And the food's going to be different, because like everybody has different tastes, and our taste buds change. And like when you broke down that one photo, what I appreciate about that is because I like to bake. And that is so much easier when you have a photo of like how much it looks like. And like when I'm done making a cake in the batter, I'll be like, if it doesn't look right, I'll be like, okay, it doesn't match the same colors theirs, so you can actually adjust on what you're doing. And that's great that you're showing them, because then you can look and be like, oh, wait, that's not the right color. What did I do? And we can like decipher what happened in the process. So that would make life easier, because I did have a little easier for me with food prep, because my husband loves to cook. So he took the list basically, and we just grocery shopped off the list, and then he just cooked the things that were on the list. So for the first year, I was totally fine. And then I don't know what happened. Like we both just slowly like weren't doing those things anymore, but it's not like I wasn't doing like bad things. I actually just got used to, this is how we eat now. And then I would slowly accidentally bring in the bad stuff.
Accidentally. Okay. Are you going with that? Are you going with the accident?
It's very accidental.
It just jumped into the cart all on its own, and I didn't know it was there until I got home. No.
But there is something to be said for that, because I do feel like a lot of times there can be like these there is and I talk about that as well, like that we also want to bring mindfulness to it. Because sometimes it can be mindless at the time, you know, like as far as, or it can be a deliberate decision. And that's also important, and really to help people recognize being mindful, because you want to make sure that, like, I feel like I encourage people to make that choice. Yeah. You know, that it didn't just happen, but even if you choose a food that may not be in line, like with your food or with your food choices normally, right. Just to still recognize that it's a choice, you know, and like not to, feel like it's just happening to you.
Yeah. Cause I would say when that happened, it was more of like, it was a spontaneous moment. It was just like, oh yeah, like we're like, everyone's having cake. Let's go ahead and have cake. I'm like 2 years out. Why not? And then I'm like, wait, why am I doing this?
You know, you just like, it is like everybody else,
you know? And it's like, oh yeah, like I'm making this decision, but I don't even realize why until later. I'm like, oh, there's a reason behind these things. And really it's because we've talked to a lot of bariatric therapists, like really makes you break down why you do the things that you do. And I didn't have that the first 2 years. I didn't have a therapist and I didn't have a nutritionist. So I was just doing the thing as well as I could. And
I think a lot of people are in that situation. You know, there's a lot, and there's, it makes sense. It's hard to find people sometimes that really understand exactly what you're going through, even in the health field.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. I think with one of the therapists we talked to, I actually realized that I was eating because I was lonely. I had no idea that was even a thing. I didn't know that you could possibly do that.
Yeah.
And so there's different things that you learn through bringing in professionals to kind of help bring your brain into like, okay, what am I actually doing by doing this?
Yep.
Am I lonely? Am I sad? Am I angry? Like what emotion am I feeling? Because before surgery, I would just eat.
Yeah.
I didn't care why I was eating. I didn't care what I was eating. I just wanted to eat.
Yep.
And I know you feel the same.
Mindless eating, 100%.
And it's so powerful to know like kind of like your why and the reasons behind it. Because then it can help you kind of start shifting things a little bit. It doesn't happen once again, it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
but it gives you that opportunity to at least become aware and to become, I always encourage people to like become curious about it. Like, okay, like, you know, why is this happening and what can I do? You know, try different things. And I always talk about like that food is, it is like, I mean, the positive thing about it is that it is helping in some sort of way, you know, even if it is temporary, it is helping. And so that's a tool. So also trying to get other tools in your toolbox that you can have.
Exactly.
And to, once again, go back to that being mindful and like trying to choose what tool do I want to use right now?
Yes. Yeah. And I remember one of your posts said, what did it say? It was basically like, the mission of bariatric surgery is not to eat the least amount of food. Like you're eating through your weight loss, not like to see how much, you know, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was saying that calorie counting and like small portions isn't the goal of surgery. It's more about learning lifelong eating and balance.
Yes.
In the long term.
Yes.
And what makes you feel the best, you know, as well.
Exactly. And that really resonated with me because I don't think I did that as well as I should have the first year. I was more like, I'm going to eat these 3 foods. And that's it. And I really didn't focus on expanding my food horizons. And I wasn't interested in, you know, trying to eat those. I was so scared of carbs. And I know a lot of our followers feel the same way.
I think that's okay though,
me too.
You know?
But I didn't eat any. Like I was like less than 20 grams of carbs a day. Like it was real restrictive. And so I like that. I guess I'm wondering if maybe you can go more into like what kind of carbs are the best options.
Because we hear you say smart carbs. And so I think we'd like to understand that.
I do say smart carbs a lot. No, it's a great question. When it comes to carbohydrates, like I typically like when someone's first starting, just had surgery and they're ready to introduce something else than like protein. Because let's be true, it's like all protein at first.
Yes.
I encourage fruit usually is the one that I typically go to first, like a fresh fruit, not like, well, I guess you could do like not a smoothie necessarily. Like I encourage people to have it like in their whole form when they're first starting off. And then also starchy vegetables and like beans are considered a starchy vegetable. Potatoes, I know like that can be like for some people kind of scary to have potatoes, but I think potatoes are a lot healthier than like, let's say like a Ritz cracker. You're getting potassium in there. You're still getting your vitamins, you know, you're still getting vitamins and minerals, fiber in the potato. So I think there's a sweet potato, you know, that one has, you know, more of the vitamin A. So both I think can fit in. Now, if someone like is starting to like some people with potatoes, it can trigger like, I need to eat a lot of these. And so be cautious if that's you, because that's not everyone, it depends on who you are. Mm-hmm. And then like peas can be an option in the beginning. If someone tolerates corn, I think corn can be a smart carb as well in their whole form. I think corn has gotten a really bad rap because it's, because of corn syrup and corn tortillas and like everything's made of corn that's processed. Mm-hmm. So, that can be more problematic, but if it's kerneled corn, I think that's fine.
Okay.
And then once you get past the fruit and the starchy vegetables, then you can more on the whole grains.
Okay.
Would be another smart carb that I would encourage. So that would look like quinoa is one of my favorites because I'm like, okay, like if you need to get protein in, like quinoa is high, it has a good amount of protein. You're still getting some protein. That's one of the reasons why I like beans too. You are still hitting that protein note a little bit, but it is more of a carbohydrate. And as far as like volume wise, I'd consider it more of a carb.
Okay.
So as far as the grains, going back to the grains, long grain brown rice is usually more my preference. And that's because the short grain rice can raise your blood sugars faster.
Okay.
So I always encourage people, what we're trying to do is like you have your blood sugar. And if you have like more of these processed carbs, your blood sugar is just going to spike up. Mm. And so what you want to try to do is you want to try to pair it with some sort of protein or healthy fat. And so or fiber. And that's going to give you more of those rolling hills instead of these mountains and these low valleys of blood sugar.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
That can potentially prevent all of a sudden like big cravings, because you're hungry, and then you fill up and your blood sugar is good. And then all of a sudden it drops and then you're hungry again. So we want more of these managed rolling hills.
Okay.
So as far as like going back to the grains, if someone wants bread, if someone wants to introduce that, I think that's okay. It's not one of I think starchy vegetables would be a better choice.
Okay.
But there's no harm. Like, I think it's about balance overall and what your overall day looks like, and not to get like caught up on whether or not you had a slice of bread during the day.
Or like or like a tortilla or something like that.
Tortilla, like those can totally fit in, So generally I see if people are following like the bariatric plate method model, typically 75 to 100 grams of carbs, if it's in whole food form, whether or not it's like a white rice or even a white bread, it typically comes to about 75 to 100 grams of carbs people take in.
Okay.
If you follow that 3 ounce, and for your listeners that may be new to the bariatric plate method concept, that means roughly about 2 to 3 ounces of protein. Mm-hmm. So about 50% of your meals, the protein, usually about 3 ounces is what most people need. And then about a third of a cup of vegetable. And then it's going to be about a quarter of a cup, 2 to 4 tablespoons of a carb. So no matter what the carb is, even if it's more of a process, it's only, it's still not going to be like that big of an amount because you're balancing it out with your protein and your vegetable.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Did you say 2 tablespoons?
2 to 4. Depending on someone's, capacity.
Right.
If someone's on the lower end, they may only be able to have like, 1 or 2 tablespoons and that's it. Especially like if there's someone that's like around the 6 months and they're like, okay, I want to try to include carbs, but they have their protein and they have their vegetable, they may not have that much left over for that carbohydrate.
I remember that.
During 100%,
6 months, like I was very focused on my protein, but I mean, even at like a 1 year when my nutritionist was like, Kelly, eat a potato. Like she was like, cause I was still adamant and she was like, just eat a potato. And I would have like 1 bite of potato and then I would eat the rest of my meat. I was just like, I was like, nope, I'm good. But now, like, you kind of find balance after.
Yeah. What I was going to ask, this is more of like a selfish question for us.
That's fine.
Because we are so post-op. So when she's 2 years and I'm 6 years, what is a proper size smart carb for us?
Yeah. So I would look at it more in the percentage of your meal. So about 20 to 25% of the meal would be a good place in order to have you at that smart carb. At your mealtime. And, there is a huge range. Like I've seen anywhere between doctors saying 4 to 9 ounces of food. I mean, if I put 9 ounces on my pictures, like I get a whole
I bet you do.
Comments like that's way too much for, me. But like the people I know, but I also get comments, behind the scenes or DMs, I should say, like, I'm so glad you posted that. It makes me feel normal. I feel like I've been eating too much. And so there is, so there can be such a large much. And what's interesting is that it's actually not related always to pouch size. I think that's become a common talk more in like the health professional world. Like I've seen different people talk about it as far as pouch size. Just because your pouch size is bigger doesn't mean that you're going to have more weight regain. So,
interesting.
Yeah, we haven't come across that yet. So that's an interesting
We'll have to talk to the doctors about
Yes, we will. Because I'm now very interested to know. Because I know that some doctors leave a larger pouch versus others.
Right.
So, and I didn't even think that was I
didn't know that was a thing either.
Yeah.
I thought it was all the same. I thought it all had to be exactly the same amount for everybody. Not thinking, well, it doesn't have to be. So
it's whatever that surgeon prefers.
Yep.
So interesting. And
so it's really more about the quality of the food you put in your pouch than the quantity of the food necessarily.
Okay.
It really comes back. If you're focusing on those whole foods, it's just naturally going to work its way out. Like I feel people always ask me about calories specifically. And I feel like you're already counting protein. Like if you're going to count something, count protein.
Okay.
And then if you, don't worry about as much about the calories if you're following whole foods.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you said that because there are certain times where I can eat, 5 or 6 ounces. And then there's other times where I eat like 2 and I'm stuffed. So I think it's good that you are telling people it's completely normal if you're eating more than most people post. And I saw something the other day. I think it was actually Christine.
Okay.
She, one of our Bariatric Diaries girls, she posted something and she was like, hey, guess what, guys? It's okay if you eat the rest of your plate and you don't need to post about it.
Oh, that is her. Yeah. Christine. I
was like, it is true. You can't eat your whole plate. You don't have to say what's left over. I mean, if you post that, more power to you. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. But I'm like, because some people do eat their whole plate. And maybe they're still hungry. And I think it really relates to how much activity you get in the day.
Yes.
Because some people are more active in the gym than others. So they're going to need more protein and more carbs than somebody that's not.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
me, I'm working in my room. Like I'm not going to be, because we just talked to a guy that like he's like a year and a half out and he takes in 2,800 calories a day.
Was it Jim?
No, it was Nate. Yeah.
Okay, just kidding.
But it's like there's no way. Like if I did that, then I would gain weight because I'm not moving like he is.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to understand like it's going to be different per person.
And
no matter
what.
Per activity.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you're in the gym all day long, or like back when I was like a year post-op, I was working a very, very physical job. So I was basically working out for 6 hours.
Yeah, she was getting 20,000 steps in 5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
She was lifting, squatting.
So much movement.
Yeah, it was insane.
It's literally the perfect job right after you have surgery. Yeah. I think. Because you don't have to worry about to go work out.
Stop working there and then you start packing on weight because you're used to working there. Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, but it was a good job for that first year after post-op. And I would worry, like, because I would bring snacks with me to work. Like, I'd have some jerky, some low sugar jerky. I would have almonds, cashews, salami, cheese, things like that. And there'd be some days where I'm like, I just couldn't get full. And back then I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I still eating? And then I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, because you were moving all the time.
You were hungry.
You needed those calories. You needed that protein to keep your body moving.
Yep.
It's so funny that like, because I don't think we were too much into the podcast. We were just doing episodes with each other.
Right.
And now that we've gotten so many surgeons and nutritionists and talked to different people, we're kind of like gathering this information. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that back then because it would have made more sense.
Yep.
I probably would have eaten more.
It's so fun. Like I totally relate, like how you can pick the people that are on your podcast, right? And so like you can get the information and be like, okay, well, I like this idea. So let's have this person on. That's how totally I felt about the Bariatric Symposium this year. I'm like, what topics am I interested in?
Yeah.
I was like, let's get this one. Let's get gut health, let's get pregnancy. Like, let's get all these different ones. So it's really fun I'm sure for you to be able to talk to different people and learn for yourself, in addition, obviously to your followers.
Yeah. Yeah. So to
your audience.
So do you get to meet, so you're doing people like right after surgery? Do you meet with them before surgery? How does it work?
So, when I first started with bariatric surgery, definitely it was more people in the pre-op phase. And now that I'm more online, I would say it's more post-op because a lot of those nutrition visits are done by their surgery center in the beginning. So they don't really need a dietitian until afterwards because sometimes the surgery center, they have a dietitian, but they may just not be as often. Like they may, you have to go every 3 or 4 months to go see the dietitian. And if someone wants to see a bariatric dietitian more often, they come to me.
Gotcha.
And so that's more, I would say more post-op afterwards. And there's a big variability. I would say like half of the people are within their first year and then half are after. After that first year, coming for different reasons.
Okay. I want to hear more about how you meal prep.
Yeah.
How do we meal prep?
We kind of took a step, but kind of went a little detour there.
We take squirrel moments all the time. It's fine. We have shiny moments.
Yeah. Totally fine.
Are you asking how I personally meal prep or how I recommend for other people to meal prep?
How do you recommend that somebody would start meal prepping? Because for me, I don't meal prep. I hate it. I don't understand it.
That's a great question. How do you just get started?
Yeah. I definitely always want to say not to overcomplicate it because I think that can be, starting to get all these different books and looking at all these things online. And just what I suggest is to really look at your schedule and look at what meal, is there a certain meal that you struggle with the most? So that could be for some people, it's not having breakfast ready in the morning. Or it could be, they're at work and they skip lunch and so they don't have any lunch. Or it could be dinner because they're a mom of 3 kids doing a soccer practice and by the time they get home. So really look at what meal is the most challenging for you. And usually there can be, some variation, but I usually recommend starting there as the first meal so that it can start helping you with your health goals as well.
Okay.
And then just to pick one meal prep meal. So if it's a family, they do better more with crock pot, slow cooker or instant pot sort of meals where you can make a large quantity so it can feed everyone.
Okay.
And then for people that are single, whatnot, having more putting them into individual portion size containers. And you don't necessarily even need to have recipes to start with. You could just start with a rotisserie chicken and then having some sort of, whatever vegetable you like. So that could be green beans, it could be broccoli, it could be carrots, whatever, just either steaming those. I personally like roasting. I think roasting is my favorite way to have vegetables, but that may not be for everyone.
Okay.
And then if you are including carbohydrates, then to prep your carbs. So quinoa, we talked about earlier, is a great one to start with, or just having your fruit and then having it all in your container and then ready to go. If it's a fruit, obviously you would keep it on the side and then just grab that.
Yeah. Okay.
But just put it in a container and then have them in your fridge and ready to go, and then put them into the microwave to heat up or in the oven. What's nice about some of those meal prep containers is that they're all glass, and so you can put them in the oven if you prefer that method. But microwaving's fine. I think microwaving gets a bad rap, but that also I think is a fine way to cook.
Yeah, it's quick, it's easy. I mean, we don't eat very much, so it's kind of a nice way of just heating it up really quick. What are some ideas maybe for breakfast? Because that's where I am challenged the most is breakfast.
Yeah.
And I generally end up just having a coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that a lot. So that would be, if you are in the later stages, you can do an overnight oats, but I usually encourage some sort of protein powder in it because oatmeal in itself is a fine food and totally can be incorporated. But what I find with oatmeal is that it's low in protein. So you either need to add, you can have a hard boiled egg on the side and do overnight oats, or you could add protein powder in order to get your protein in. And that's just going to help fill you up and keep you satisfied longer. If you're earlier on, then I have these breakfast bowls. Probably one of my most popular meal prep posts is my breakfast meal prep bowls.
Okay.
And so with those, I did use a mason jar, and then the bottom, I believe it was salsa on the bottom, and then black beans, and then I did do eggs. So some people don't like to have the eggs like left over. I find when it's cooked with other things,
it's fine.
I can't really evaluate the difference.
Yeah. It's delicious.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. So good. Yep.
Yeah. And then maybe some Greek yogurt, or that would be at the bottom. So you want to layer it where you want your, if you have like lettuce or anything, you'd want that to be on top.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's just the black beans, salsa, and your eggs. And that can maybe like some cheese on top, and then pour it out onto a dish and then heat it up and voila. And
that's cool.
If you have more room in your stomach, then you could also do like a low carb, like breakfast burrito. And using those low carb tortillas, I find that one really nice that you can do on the weekends, and you can freeze those. So you don't have to eat them like right away, and keep them in the freezer. And that can be a nice option as well. And you may be at a protein drink, and I'd rather someone have that protein drink and meet their protein goals for the day than like skip breakfast altogether or not even have a protein drink. So, also being, aware of like what works for you.
Yes. No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
It does. It really does. Cause like it's making me think of questions. So morning breakfast stuff I hear, and I even did it for a while. What are we at about timing of eating of the breakfast? Like, does it need to be 30 minutes after you wake up? Do you need to be an hour? Are we waiting 6 hours? What are we doing here for breakfast?
I encourage people not to necessarily get caught up in the rules. It would depend on if you're able to meet your protein needs comfortably without thinking about it. You are at a completely different stage than someone that is 2 or 3, weeks or months after surgery. Early on, you are going to need to be scheduled, and I would, base it. Probably you need to eat within an hour.
Okay.
After, so 1 to 2 hours, if you want to eat right away, a half hour, that's fine too. But like at least 1 to 2 hours, no more than that, because you're really missing your windows of opportunity to get your protein in.
Okay.
Now, as time goes on, for me, I personally like to eat within at least 2 hours, ideally an hour, like after getting up to kind of boost that metabolism. But I don't like to like get caught up in that. And if someone is going 3 hours and they're fine and like they're not having any issues, and I'm not going to tell someone that like they need to start eating an hour or two, and really to explore what's working for them. So like right now I've been working with someone, and they naturally, aren't eating in the morning, but they're able to easily meet their protein needs throughout the day. And they aren't nighttime snacking either. And so they're kind of naturally falling into like that intermittent fasting. And it's totally not something I recommend for people, but it really works for her, so, and she's not doing it from a dieting stance. Like I feel like if someone's doing intermittent fasting for like dieting purposes, that that's likely not going to last. If that's something that feels comfortable to you and it's natural, then, we can go down that road. But if we're just putting restrictions and rules on you, a lot of the time you want to kind of break out of those rules. And like a month, 2 months down the line, we're, breaking out, and you might have more weight regain after that.
Okay. Well, and I kind of resonate with your person because I did it for years. I just like my body just got used to eating from 1 to 9. Which is what it did. And it was because my lunch break was at 1. So I would just start there, and I would hit my goals. So it felt just normal. But now I notice that like I want food earlier. So, and I have actually been having it, and it feels, I actually feel like I'm getting more energy. I've noticed there's like an uptick in my energy levels, but what would be signs where you're like, hey, you need to eat, like you haven't ate today? Like what kind of signs should we be looking for?
Yeah, irritability is definitely one. And also recognizing like earlier on, you may not feel hunger. And so I do encourage people to be able to like, to really tune in to like their body and see if there are any signs. There could be irritability, there could be headaches in the beginning. There could be like extreme fatigue, but there's lots of reasons for fatigue. And I don't want to just say it's because you're hungry.
I'm going to use that as an excuse. I'm really tired. I need to eat, people.
Or get vitamins checked. I feel like that one's totally overlooked when people are really tired. Like, you got to get your iron level checked. Make sure that looks good. As far as, the hunger pangs, feeling like that contraction in your stomach, feeling nauseous for some people can be a sign of hunger as well. Those are the main ones. So growling, hunger pangs, headache, irritability, fatigue, thirsty. Thirsty could be one as well. So that is a physical, a sensation that you can have related to being hungry also.
Good to know.
That makes sense because people make mistake thirst for hunger as well. So it's like they go hand in hand.
I think we said them all. I think we said at least the main ones. for hunger. And I also like encourage people to also recognize, to learn when they're full as well. Cause I think you got to know both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So some people could be burping early on. It could be that, the word is slipping me. When you get that kind of the slimy, we call it the slimy, but there's like a fancy word like sliatorrhea or something.
Yeah, it's like,
I
lots
could never
of saliva
pronounce
in
it.
your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So, knowing your personal signs, feeling that restriction in your stomach, or you could start feeling more of that tightness of your stomach. You could feel it up here in your high in your chest. So recognizing your own patterns. Talk with people, definitely encourage people to like talk with other people to see what their norm, what there is, and that can help them navigate, but don't expect that it's going to be the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I definitely get the hiccups when I'm full. I definitely feel it like up here. Because I'll stand up and I'll be like, oh, and I'll like push and I'm like, come on, get down.
Yeah.
But I never really experienced like the runny nose or anything else really.
Mine's just the burps.
The burps. Yeah. Yep. I definitely get the hiccups.
And it's the tightness. I remember when I was like really like newly out, and it would be like that tight. It wasn't pain. It was just really tight pressure, like just right there in the middle. I'm like, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
And then you would just feel like air just like right here. You're like, oh, this is intense. Okay.
This is weird.
This is not what I've ever been used to, because I don't remember ever feeling that way prior to surgery. So I would assume that's a sign from it, but also a fullness is one and the same. So
exactly.
Because I still feel pressure.
And they can come on really fast from what people tell me also. Like, so I really encourage people to take those small bites, especially in the beginning, because like there's a huge difference between 1 tablespoon of food.
Oh, yes, completely. And it's different before surgery when you're just like shoveling your food into, and then you're like, oh, I'm full. This, you have to like, okay, I took a bite. Okay, is that going to be too much if I take another bite? Like, you have to really think about each bite that you take.
Yeah, they all mean something.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah, so learning to recognize your own hunger and really developing your own patterns. So kind of going back to your question about like the, when you should have breakfast and whatnot, it can change. Like you said, your system has, already started to change. But I honestly, most people I work with, if I notice, most people would do benefit from having like more of that dense protein in the morning. And so to do your own, your own experiment on yourself, and be like having, I'm not talking to you ladies specifically, but, doing that 3 ounces in the, morning, and then seeing how your energy level is, noticing your hunger level throughout the day. Are you more hungry? Because sometimes people like don't eat enough during the day, and then all of a sudden nighttime hits, and then they can be more hungry because their body's making up for it. It could also be related to stress. It also could be related, there's lots of things that nighttime eating can be related to, but notice what it is, for you personally.
I've always been a nighttime eater.
Yep.
Always. Yep. And I hate it, and I want to change it, but it's it's weird. When I stay at my boyfriend's house, I don't eat at night. Like, I don't eat in the middle of the night. But if I'm by myself, which I know it's the loneliness thing.
I was about to say, it's the loneliness.
I will get up at least once in the night and get something to eat.
Interesting.
And I've already I don't buy stuff that is, like not good for me.
Yeah.
So that's not in the house, but I will I'm like ravaged. Like, I'm like, what can I find? What's deep in the freezer? Like, what can I get?
There's got to be something back there. I know it.
And I'm just like, which I just remembered I have Yazo bars. Okay. Yeah.
Find that thing in the back. Yeah. But it's interesting though that you bring up environment, because I do think that has a lot to do with it sometimes. It's just our patterns that we're in. And so, when you move to a new place or you move to a new home, sometimes that actually can change patterns in itself. There's I'm sure you've heard of it before. The Atomic Habits book.
Yes. It's on our list to read.
Yep.
Oh, totally recommend it.
Okay.
I believe it's this book that talks about, he recommends that if you are, experiencing like hunger, like if your own house, that you can also kind of rearrange your furniture.
Ooh,
obviously you can't move, like moving would be like way too big of a deal, but like it's possible, like just kind of moving your furniture in itself can stimulate the brain differently, because we get caught up on like these habit loops, it's like, a lot of times that's when we have like the same, like certain foods associated with certain TV shows or, certain events, like going to the movies, obviously usually kind of does popcorn, or maybe like for me, it's Milk Duds. I had Milk Duds as a kid, like all the time. And so I feel like I relate that to movies when I go to the theater.
Oh, that makes
everyone's
sense.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
Well, because we used to watch The Hills and stuff together, and it'd always be taco salad night. So like anytime like it's like reality stuff, I'm like, ooh, I want tacos.
I want taco salad. Which we need to make that.
We need to do that. Yeah. And then even like
Note last that one night, down, right?
Yeah. And I would say even last night with the whole like rearranging the room, like Kelly, I talked to her when she got here. Like I did a huge organizational like change last night and cleaned a bunch of stuff, and I felt so much better. And then she got a bunch of markups from me being like, "Hi, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? Da, 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 da. This needs to happen. We got to do this." And I'm probably like, she probably thinks I'm nuts over here. Just like
I did not sleep well last night, so I woke up at 9 a.m. because I was up at 1 a.m. till about almost 6.
Yeah,
and I finally fell back asleep for a couple hours, and then I wake up to her, and I'm like, "Shut up, Melanie! Like I'm gonna put you down here, and you can just stay there for right until I wake up."
But it like cleared stuff out of my brain and made me all energized today. It was great.
It's good. Yeah. It's good.
Oh. Totally. I'm a huge believer of that. I've been actually in the same realm myself. I even did like a story on it recently. Like, you got to clean everything out because you got to like make room. You got to get rid of these things so you can make room for new things, and it's like a physical, like symbolic way, to be able to do that. It's kind of cathartic in that way.
Oh, and I threw a lot of shit out. So
I can feel like that when I did my closet right after I started like really dropping sizes to where like my clothes were not fitting at all. And you start clearing that out. It was like a whole new wave of me came in because you're just like, okay, you're no longer in my closet.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. And I actually did one right before I had surgery, and I have a picture of it. I had all my clothes like mounded on this on my bed. And I was really like focused on like, am I using this? No. Am I going to use this after surgery? No. Get rid of it. So, and I ended up donating a lot of clothes that way.
Yeah.
So, because there's no need for most of it.
No, and those are going to go to great people that need it, and why not?
Like, I ended up giving it away to other people. I think I was off my Facebook.
Yeah.
So it was somebody that needed clothes. It actually ended up being, now that I'm remembering, it was a friend of a friend. She was going through a separation from an abusive relationship.
Oh, there you go.
And she didn't have any clothes. And so I was like, yes, take them all.
You got it.
Just give them to her. So you never know who could use them.
Yeah. Always search.
Yeah. I always put it out on Facebook, be like, does anybody want these? Because if not, I'm tossing them or donating.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I love it.
So to kind of, is it normal? Because when I eat breakfast, I get hungry a lot quicker. So like if I skip breakfast, I don't get hungry until like 1. But if I eat breakfast, I'm hungry at like noon, like on the dot, or 11.
Yeah.
Like is that normal?
Yeah. And I think that's normal for even people that haven't had surgery. Like a lot of times it's just kind of jumping your metabolism, getting your body ready, getting your body, so you're breaking the fast essentially. So you're just getting that going. So that's totally normal now. But later though, because I find that choices as far as like food, it's harder to make a positive decision about food later in the night than it is at lunchtime. So like, I feel like that's okay, and like I even had in my post, I don't know if you ladies saw it from yesterday. I was like, don't fear hunger. Like you just got to learn, we got to learn how to navigate it.
Yes.
There can be like all of these negative thoughts that kind of come back in, like this is going to fail. This isn't going to work. I'm not supposed to be hungry. But just kind of recognizing that it's normal and it's really your body's signal, which you mentioned earlier, is like that, that it needs fuel. And your body's communicating with you. And if you do feel like it's head hunger, obviously we need to navigate that as well. But it's okay that your body's hungrier, 2 or 3 hours after eating. I think it can go back into that diet because that diet thinking, as far as if I skip breakfast, I'm gonna have lower calories overall and I'm not even hungry. But a lot of times it doesn't work in your favor.
It's kind of funny how our brains do that. We'll revert backwards to on being on a diet and we're counting calories. It's like, oh, wait, guys, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're counting protein. What are we doing here? Like, it's okay. We're human. We're allowed to feel hunger.
Yeah. Even Dr. D said, don't count calories. And you said it too. Don't count calories. Count your protein. Count what matters, which that's the protein, because we're not consuming enough. I think our heads get confused because before surgery, we could eat a whole pizza. But easily by ourselves. And after surgery, you're barely, and I'm not condoning pizza, but it's just an example. So you can eat like one slice and you're like, oh, I had one slice of pizza.
Right.
The world is ending. I don't, but it's like, our heads get confused because we go back to that like
well, it's that diet culture. Like we've been trained to feel that way. Like that's why we call it a diet and all these things. It's like, no, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
No,
it's hard to make that transition. Cause I mean, I was honestly trying to like be like when I first became a bariatric dietitian, I was really into like intuitive eating and mindful eating, which I still am. But I also felt like in the beginning after surgery, there is guidelines. You know, we can't just go like we just talked about how you don't even feel hungry in the beginning. It's hard to be intuitive when your body's not even really giving you those signals correctly at first. So I think it's really helpful to work with like a dietitian or professional to help you also get rid of that, because that diet culture mentality while you're kind of in a diet in the beginning. It's like how, you know, that's kind of hard to wrap your head around that you want to break away from this diet culture, but yet you're kind of on a diet in the beginning, you know?
You will be, and you just kind of have to power through and, you know, just get through that first 6 months, I would say. Because I think the first 6 months are the hardest diet wise, because then your hunger starts coming back a little bit and you're starting to get those signals a little bit easier. You're not just like trying to choke down all these protein shakes. Like you actually get to eat. And there are good protein shakes, but in the beginning when you're drinking them every day, it's really hard.
3 to 4.
And it's, I mean, and also like, and the time frame is going to change per person too. Like someone could not even, I know me, it was like almost a year out until I started getting annoyed with all the things. So like, and then I started feeling the hunger and whatnot. And I was like, oh, what am I going to eat now? This is like, I feel like I want more. And that's scary. I remember being like, I feel like I can fit more. Should I be concerned? And it's like, no, that's normal. That's normal.
Yeah. I think that's the least used term in our society or in our community. It's normal.
It's
It's normal because I think we're all so worried with being normal. Like, is this normal? Did I break my pouch? Did I stretch my pouch? Like, why am I eating 3 ounces when everybody else is eating 1 ounce? Like, it's so crazy. But every step, it's different. It's different. And it's normal.
Yeah.
And it can also, and it goes back into that, you were saying everything so beautifully. I'm just adding on that. Going back also, like there's something wrong with me. Like I think we're kind of in our culture, we tend to think that there's something wrong with us, you know, like we kind of go back to like that thinking also. And it's hard to change, you know, I struggle with it too. Like, you know, like, no, like you are okay. Like you are fine, you know, doing those mantras and like going to, you know, talking to ladies like you or talking to your doctor and like getting that reassurance. Cause I think it's a normal pattern in the brain also going back to normal. That you think that something's broken with you, there's something wrong. Because it's just kind of a pattern that I think we have as a society sometimes. We don't fix ourselves. Like, so I have to do that talk negative or that positive talk a lot, but
because the negative talk can really get you. Like that's a big deal.
Well, I think that in our society, we just want to be normal. We want to be, you know, as much as like everybody likes having their own unique qualities and everybody has their own way of being. We just want to fit in. And
that's really all it is.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to fit in.
They want to fit in. But everybody wants to be those cool kids.
Yeah.
And guess what? You are.
I have a good friend. Her name's Jasmine, and she's a therapist. And she was telling me that she says that we want to be accepted because back in the day when there was just tribes, you were you know, a lot of times you were shamed, and because they wanted you to like work together, you know, and be part of the tribe. And if they weren't accepting, then you had to be by yourself. And you know, being alive, you know, and surviving by yourself is really challenging. So you always wanted to try to be with the group. So a lot of times you try to, you know, continue to want to be in the group.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true because I know being overweight, you're already shamed and you're already by yourself and you feel like you don't, and not everybody's, you know, concept of this is the same, but like I felt very alone and very abnormal pre-op. And then, so when I finally was like, oh wait, I'm like everybody else. Like you get to kind of rejoice. But then when those small things happen, you know, oh, I just ate 6 ounces. Am I not normal anymore?
Right.
Am I going to still fit in? Like, what if I gain 10 pounds? Am I still going to fit in? Am I still going to? Yeah. So I think that's where my brain goes to.
Well, it's scary because I know for me, like I was the big girl of the group and then I became the small girl of the group. And then all of a sudden I could eat more. And I'm like, wait, I don't want to be the big girl of the group again. So it's scary. You're like,
it is scary.
Gosh darn it. Like,
yes. Yeah. And that's why I think your platform of showing us exactly what is behind that curtain of food.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's such a mystery to a lot of us.
Sorry, you broke out. I don't know what happened on my end.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I was going to say your platform is so important to our community because you're really pulling back that curtain of the food and that it is normal to eat certain foods. You know, it's okay to eat smart carbs. It's okay to eat fruit. All of these things that I think have always been so scary. And I think that like coming from a nutritionist that did an awesome job, I was still confused.
Yeah.
So having someplace that people can go no matter, you know, newly pre-op, newly post-op, you know, 2 years out, 6 years out, we can all find something from your platform. And I find that really, really great.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you enjoy it. And I definitely try to like do that balance as well with my photos, like being able to, I try to show mostly, like sometimes I think I should change my name to like mostly whole foods because it's like, you know, some of those processes, not like it's bad, just mostly, you know, you want to try to get as many of those whole foods as possible to be able to nourish your body and to feel your best. And you're using your tool essentially the best that you can, keeping it sharp essentially by having more of those whole foods as opposed to like those less processed foods.
Yeah. And we definitely agree with you on the whole foods because we talk about how like having a steak, a piece of chicken or something like that is not the same as having a protein shake because it's just going to fill you up different. And you have to decide like, okay, is a protein shake going to be easier and more better for me this morning? And then I'll have my more whole food lunch and dinner. Or, you know, you can.
Yeah, you got to balance and play with it.
And you have, like you said earlier, you have to look at your schedule. Because if you're busy in the morning, obviously cooking is not going to work for you. So a protein shake works better.
Yeah, it just does. It just does.
Yep.
My goodness.
Grab and go. Or the meal prep. You can do the meal prep and the breakfast in the morning.
I really want to try your breakfast meal prep thing.
The salsa? I know.
The breakfast bowls?
Yeah. Because
it's just on my website. So it's if you go to bariatricmealprep.com and then go to recipes, it's actually located under breakfast. So it's pretty easy to find.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
When you do that. So
I'm excited.
Well, because my wheels are turning even for my kid because I'm like, hey, how do we incorporate foods that you can just eat easily but are high in protein? Because when you're on this journey, when you have kids, like it's not just about you, it's about them because I'm on this thing where like, if I'm not going to eat it, why would I have him eat it? Like we need to be on like the same wavelength. And it's like, if that's not good for me, it's not good for him. You know, it really isn't. Why are we fooling ourselves? We're just acting like it's just because it's easier and it's all it's the ease of use is what's happening.
And they love it. Like it's easy.
But
I get that too.
It's like, I'm just training you to eat the shit that I had to use a tool for to get rid of. Like, why would I need? So I'm trying to like look at like recipes and like, hey, what does he like? What doesn't he like? Because even recently, like, okay, we need to put a vegetable in your lunch. What the hell? Which one do you like? Because you need to eat it and it's going to be there. And he's like, I really like carrots. I'm like, okay, you're buying baby carrots and they're going in your lunch.
Yep.
So you just have to figure it out because I feel like it's a family thing too. That you guys got to be on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
To be successful and maintain.
Yeah, I'm just learning the whole kid thing because my boyfriend has two girls and they're both teenagers and I'm like, I don't know. I've never had kids, so I have no idea. Like, they're not mine. So, but like my healthy choices are gonna revert back to them.
Yep.
And they're gonna see that I'm making healthy choices and they're gonna want to emulate those choices. So
exactly, like you.
Oh, it cut out.
Okay, it cut out. So I was just saying, you as your as the parent is like the biggest role model is you with your food choices as opposed to like what you tell them to eat. You know, when you're role modeling, and I love getting kids in the kitchen because it helps improve their skills in the kitchen and their confidence levels. So when they do move out of the house, they have that skill set, and it can also be a form of bonding. Am I still okay?
Yep. Yeah, you're great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a question for when you're helping people and you're and you can tell that like they're just like kind of fighting themselves. How do you like battle that with them? Like, how do you like talk them out of like,
that's a good question.
Like, hey, it's okay. You're fine. Let's get something done. Like, cause I know I battle it sometimes. I'm just like, no, I don't want to eat the good things today. And I don't know, you know, it happens. So
how do you get past yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you mean, so just to kind of clarify, when you say fighting yourself, you mean like when you don't feel like eating healthy?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. So I think it does depend, on the person. And one method, is to kind of plan to like just plan to have that snack later. I find that if we just say that we have to put ourselves like in this little, pretty little box that sometimes we don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So having like that scheduled, like, yeah, you know what? I feel like I'm going to have dessert. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
No.
Well, I don't know why it keeps freezing. On my end, your face is like freeze. So I'm like, oh gosh, they kill me. But now you're moving. So yeah, giving yourself that great. And also, so having an intended plan. So being flexible, like setting out your schedule for the day of what you plan on eating and just writing it down, just the power of writing it down. So like, that's like the first step, just setting aside 10 minutes for yourself to write down what you want to eat that day.
Okay.
And I'm not putting judgment on yourself for what it's even going to be, but like writing it down is like so powerful.
Yeah.
Because you tend to want to stick to your word when you write it down.
Okay.
And then that's like the ideal, right? Like that's the ideal. Like, you know what? I'm really been, I'm about, like, we haven't even talked about like periods or whatnot, but like, that's another reason why you can get hungry, right? We were talking about hunger earlier, it's your hormonal changes as well. And so, I'm just feeling like I'm in that time. I want a little bit more of a snack, like plan it out. Yeah, I'm going to have that, after dinner. So you're not necessarily totally cutting foods off and calling them like off limits. You're honoring that, but you're giving yourselves a little bit of a firm boundary.
Okay.
Also.
Okay. No,
how does that sit with you?
Yeah, I really like that. I like the whole planning it out, like knowing, okay, I'm going to have A, B, and C, but then I'm going to throw in, because I know Mel really likes Hershey almonds.
I do.
So like if you're planning for that, you're saying, okay, I'm going to have my Hershey almonds tonight.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but I'm writing it down and this is what I'm having beforehand. So you're really recognizing it.
And also coming at it from the addition standpoint, so like, I really want to have fries tonight, but what can I add to this meal? What can I also know I need my protein. So what can I add, to this meal to make it a better option? Because sometimes we get, once again, go back to that all or nothing mentality. It's like, we're either on or we're either off, and really just trying to get more to that gray area. So, saying like, yeah, I'm going to have some of those fries, but I'm also going to get that burger protein style. You know? And I'm going to have my burger, I'm going to have a few bites of my burger and then I'm going to have the fries. So coming at it from the addition mindset of instead of like, I can't, or I'm only going to do the fries,
Oh, that's super nice.
Yeah. So really kind of doing a marriage, like really asking yourself, like, what do I want? And like, what does my body need? And like really trying to marriage those two together.
Okay.
And also, it's a reality of too, like, what do I have?
Yeah.
So what's actually available at the same time. And, doing like a little trifecta, trying to figure out like what's in the middle that's going to best suit what you need, want, and have for that meal.
That's super helpful because I just have those moments, and I know that we all have those moments and we get frustrated, and I just want to, I know planning definitely helps. And I've noticed if I get more protein throughout the day, then I don't want it at nighttime. That's super helpful.
Yes. I will agree.
And then writing it down, I really like that because I notice if I write it down, I do it. So if we kind of incorporate some more writing stuff down, I think would be helpful.
Lists.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's how much it helps to write stuff down. Like I just like sometimes I even notice if like I'm hesitating to write it down, I'm like, oh, that's because I'm really not that serious about it, Because like if I write it down, like it's gonna get done.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Because you'll see it again later, like
and you'll be like, oh,
and it could be days later, and you're like, so like that whole thing comes back to you. So that's a great way to combat that. So
I actually had a sticky note on my computer that of something I had to do, and I didn't do it. And I looked at it this morning, and I was like, yeah, I see you there. I see you there, sticky note.
Wakes you up at 2 a.m. Gotcha.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it.
I know I will wake up and I'll be like, oh, I didn't do that again.
So you did bring up the periods and hormonal thing because I noticed for myself, like I do feel way more hungry and I need meat. I noticed like I really need meat. I get really pale, which I know is like my iron thing. And so I need to actually have more protein throughout the day. So
replenish that.
How do you incorporate all that?
Yeah. If you notice, so, because everyone's on different spectrums, but like when someone's noticing that they are going to have their period, like if they're more stressed or more anxiety, because I just noticed with women that we do tend to have like a little bit more of anxiety or stress right before. And so like to recognize that and honor that, like, this is where I'm at. This isn't like a forever thing. This is where I'm at for this week. How can I best take care of myself? Like, how do I want to, how do I want to feel? And so it may be helpful to have more of like those starchy carbs that week. So like, as far as like including like maybe some more like potato, at the meal to kind of help manage those cravings. Because if we don't have any carbs at all, we may get overly and then want just all the processed stuff. If you feel like having that processed, one thing we also haven't talked about is like giving yourself like a spot in the house, which can be helpful. So like, like I'm going to have my brownies or whatever it is, I'm going to have my chips sitting at the dining room table, like having like a designated spot for your eating, going back to like those habit loops that your environment really helps. So like if we always are eating on the couch, then when you sit on the couch, it's triggering that your body wants to eat.
Yep.
So if we continually eat it like at a designated spot, like not telling yourself you can't have it, but when you do have it, you're going to have it here. Then that can also help with your mindfulness and not having as much during that time period.
That can help during my nighttime eating.
Yeah. During any time you feel that way, be like, okay, well, if you want it, then you have to go sit over here and this is where you have it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can actually be a deterrent of not wanting it.
Yeah.
So it could work both ways. I like that.
We both learned.
So experiment a little bit. There's a book called "If You're Going to Eat at the Fridge, Pull Up a Chair." And it's by it's by Janine Ross. She's one of like the first like intuitive eating, mindfulness that I know of with her work. It's probably been going on forever. I don't even realize. She was one of the people I was first introduced to, and so the purpose of it was to be mindful. Like you're going to eat, but like be aware and like let your like actually receive it. Sometimes we feel that guilt and that shame for eating. And so we rush through it and we don't even like, we want to pretend like it didn't happen.
That's me.
And so, like being like sitting down and like actually receiving that time and being present to that moment can also help as well. And kind of, doing your own detective work. What's going on right now? Or like noticing the texture of the food, like really noticing it. As opposed to like trying to like go through it really fast.
Like breaking it down okay, I'm going to take a bite. Okay, what does this bite taste like? Yeah, because I do that. I kind of rush through it. That like, that whole like rush through it so it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I feel like that's totally 100% me.
When I get my ice cream, I totally savor it. I'm like every last.
And I'm so different. I'm like, okay, it didn't happen. Let's get rid of the evidence. This didn't happen. But it is true. Like you have to honor your cravings and you have to honor where you're at in life. And if you're rushing through it and stuff, like you're not actually acknowledging that the craving was there.
Yeah.
And why it was there. Ooh, that hit me in the feelers.
No, that's good though. We're learning.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought you were talking about just meal prep today.
No, this is great. This is honestly like, I love it when we go into more in depth of not just the food, because the food is there and the food is always going to be there, but like the reasons and you never know what is going to resonate with somebody. And especially like that one really resonated with me. So,
because it's something that we practice. So we're going to have to, and I like that because there is a spot in the house that I could go do that too. And that would be perfect.
Where?
I'd be at the kitchen nook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's kind of awkward, but not awkward.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I'm envisioning it. I'm trying to pick a spot in my house.
There you go.
I'll find one.
So what else can we do while we're like having our hormones going through some crazy stuff? Like
Mel's like, I'm not done with this conversation.
Yeah. Well, because I know it sounds cliche, but activity can be really helpful. It doesn't mean like activity, like you're going to go for, a CrossFit, huge, which for some, absolutely, that could be really helpful too. But getting out in nature, like I just find like just getting outside doesn't have to be a, a huge workout, but just getting outside and moving your body
yes.
is really helpful. And it's not making your own list, really recognizing, and, you talked earlier about like how you feel lonely, and that food can help. Recognizing like what emotion you're feeling, I think that can be helpful too. This is the emotion I'm feeling. I'm bored, or I'm lonely, or I'm happy, right? We eat because of happiness as well. And this is what I also like to do when I'm, bored, happy, sad, or whatever emotion it is. And so once again, developing those different tools, but really trying to figure out what the emotion is. And so when we go outside, for you, it might be like calling a friend. It could be calling a friend while you walk, or it could just be calling a friend in the car, some sort of way to like transfer that energy. When we eat in a way, we're kind of transferring that energy. Like if it's anxiety or stress, we're just kind of like, we're able to transfer it to the food for a period of time, where you're doing the same sort of thing when you're walking, or when you're, when you call a friend, you're doing, it's different obviously, but it's similar, you're helping kind of distract and just, change your energy in a way.
Yeah,
change
like,
direction a little bit.
Listening to you, there's a couple things that make sense. So like, sometimes it's like every other month I'll have a good one and a bad one. And I notice the good ones are when I'm walking more and I'm doing stuff and I'm eating good foods before it hits. What I've noticed with what you were saying was if I am eating more processed stuff and higher carb things that are not smart carbs going into it, I'm a lot more shittier feeling afterwards. Because thinking about this last round, like I was down last Monday.
You were
like
not.
I was just like out of it, very tired, very crampy, just like lethargic. I was very white, and I was just like, I need food, but nothing sounded good. And I eventually had a protein shake, and then I had some steak and stuff because I was like, this is just insane. But I ate like shit 2 days in a row right before it. So I'm like, okay, this makes a little more sense now that you're talking about like it needs to, and when you're having the good protein beforehand and not so much processed, it can actually help the period as it's happening. Like
I love that you're putting that together for yourself. I feel like each person is like a little bit of a puzzle, and figuring out how the parts fit for you is what's really important. Going back to that individuality, that we're all different, even though we have similar experiences.
Well, and I think that goes back to meal prepping too, because everybody does it a little bit differently.
Totally.
But you can take little slices of things you see and make it work around what you prefer, what you, like your breakfast, meal prep. I'm thinking, okay, what can I add? Because I don't like salsa. So I'm like, okay, what can I add that would make sense? Oh, I can make guacamole. And I can put that in. And I can do that with eggs. And I can do that with a little bit of cheese and like making it. So it's like the way you do it may not work completely for me, but you can always change or tweak to make it work. So because I think meal prep too is very important for us to make sure. I know for me, I would just rather skip meals. And so that's not healthy. That's not good for me. And so if I can find a way to meal prep in a way that works for me, then there we go. So
and it's a form of self-care essentially. And
it is.
If we were talking about with the cleaning and stuff, there can be like that sort of process with it. And building your own confidence. I think that's a big part of the change after surgery, as well as believing in yourself. Like there was, I wish I could tell you her name, because you'd probably like to have her on your podcast. I met her once at the Obesity Help Conference. And she underwent weight loss surgery herself, and she was a nurse, and she was going for either her master's or PhD. I can't remember.
Oh, wow.
And she presented at the conference that the number one like predictor of success long-term was the belief in yourself. Like she did all these things as far as like, snacking and exercise and all that. And that was like the number one thing that she found in her work that was the most predicting, was someone that really believed in their ability to take care of themselves moving forward. So, that was, I feel like meal prep can be, a form of self-care, and you practice with it. And the more, you kind of put yourself out there and experiment with things, and you come up with a recipe that works for you, it's like, yes, I did this, I created this, I stuck with it. And so it can be a source of improving your self-confidence, depending on, on what you choose to incorporate in your lifestyle.
Oh,
I like it.
Because I always feel better when I meal prep. Have you ever noticed that? Like we always do.
Yeah. I always feel like more put together, more prepared for the week.
Yep.
I love doing it on Sunday afternoons. Like that's my absolute favorite, is to just like buckle down, make my chicken, do whatever I need to do. And then it's like, then you don't really have to think about it the rest of the week. And it clears up a lot of brain space.
Well, it does. And I think what I'm learning too, like being so post-op is like, if you do a bunch of work on the front end, it's going to help you on the back end, like for time wise. And then like if you actually break down a normal person's schedule, like, I think people need to write down their actual schedule so they can actually see like,
we do.
Well, because we do. And even with art, like me working full time and doing this full time, I still have hours of emptiness. So so I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, hey, people, if you write down your schedule, you can actually see there is a good time slot for you to do this for yourself. And you are important. Like, take care of yourself. Like, we think it's selfish to just take care of ourselves sometimes. And it's not.
It's not. It's really not. Yeah, I know, like this morning. So we have a crazy busy week the rest of the week. And she froze. I'll wait. There you go.
Hi. Sorry.
So we have a crazy busy week. And so I was looking at the schedule last night because we did our production meeting.
Yep.
And I was like, what do I need to do today to make sure that I'm not like totally behind by the end of the week?
Right.
And so that's what I did. Like even with me not feeling good and not getting sleep last night, like I went straight home and I got my stuff done that I needed to get done, so that the rest of the week I wasn't like super panicked, because when I get panicked and stressed, I eat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great question. I when I do my program, I always encourage people, what can you do today to help prepare yourself for tomorrow? And kind of always asking those questions there.
I love it.
To be able to set yourself up for success. You really want to try to set yourself up as much as possible.
When I kind of make the joke to Kelly, like all the time, where I'm like, oh, I'm so happy about past Melanie, because like she was really looking out for future me, and I'm super stoked about it. Yeah. So I can celebrate those things, because that's a fun thing to feel. So
thank you, past Kelly. You did me right.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So what are kind of like the common questions that you get on a daily basis?
Well, in regards specifically, I mean, I get a lot of, it depends on what I'm kind of focusing on that week. So if I'm focusing on meal prep, which I think is kind of what we're talking about here, I would say that meal prep containers are definitely one of the biggest questions I get.
That's funny.
So I would say that, when it comes to meal prep containers, it can depend on where you are, but like, I really like mason jars when you're first starting off, like just small little, like 1-cup mason jars, because you can microwave them. They store well in the refrigerator. They're small. They're cheap. They're really nice. If that's something I guess you're concerned about. And then husband just walked by the window. So mason jars are one of my favorites. And then, I mean, the glass containers, they look pretty. So if that's something that inspires you, or like totally, you don't have to, like if you want to just, piecemeal your meals together in more different, like large Tupperwares, that's fine too. But if you are someone that's on the go, then a glass container, that can be helpful. You can either get the divided ones or not, depending on what you are. If you are on the go, definitely you want to get leak-proof lids. To be able to cover your food and make sure it doesn't get all over your purse. And then same thing, if you want to go with like glass ones are good for like if you're heating it in the microwave, or you want to put it in the oven, or not glass lids, glass containers.
Yes.
Plastics, I think, are more for like cold foods. I relate them more to cold foods. You can put them in the microwave and stuff, but like I personally prefer not to, but like everyone's a little bit different. I do the plastic more for my cold food. And then bento boxes, they're so fun. Like they just are going to inspire you to like, it could just be grapes and cheese and like, a couple whole grain crackers, and it's just going to look fabulous, and you're going to be super proud of yourself.
Oh, yes.
If that inspires you, you don't need it, obviously, but like if that inspires you, the cute little bento boxes. I actually think after weight loss surgery, there's ones called, Lunchbot. And they're actually made for toddlers, but they're really good portion sizes for someone that's first starting off that, is roughly within, about a cup.
Okay.
Right about a cup of food. They work really well, really nice. So the thing about bento boxes is you can't heat them up in the microwave, so you only can have cold food in there.
Oh, okay.
So that's just something to keep in mind. And if it's made out of metal, most of them are made out of metal. But
okay.
Don't put that in the microwave, people.
Yeah, that would be a bad day.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. Great.
So those are my main ones. So leak-proof lids if you're meal prepping, and then the glass containers if you want to heat it up, and then mason jars, especially for salads. Those are good too.
Okay. Yeah, because you just put your salad dressing at the bottom and then layer everything, and then you can shake it up. And I personally love a chopped salad.
I didn't know.
You didn't know that?
I didn't think about putting the dressing on the bottom.
Yeah, because
that's the beauty.
It doesn't wilt everything.
Oh, brilliant, ladies. Brilliant. Yes. Okay.
And then you want to put your hard vegetables on the bottom, and then like maybe your beans or whatever you have in it, and then your chicken, and then your lettuce to keep it all
lettuce at the top.
Dry. What kind of beans do you put in yours?
What depends on what I'm having. Typically, I would say black beans are probably more of my go-to for everything. I also, if I'm more like a Mediterranean, I would say more of like a chickpea.
Okay.
I like chickpeas. One that I use a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Kidney beans are good for me when I'm having like I eat a lot of Mexican. Maybe it's because of California. I just love Mexican food. So
yeah, we do too.
Usually including usually like black beans or pinto beans are in my meals a lot. But then kidney beans for just kind of whatever. All of them are really good for you. Like if you include beans as your carb source, like that I think that's a great choice.
I think I'm going to throw that in our salads now. What's happening? Yeah.
Lentils. I love lentils, like dried lentils for more of your soups, because like if beans just take a long time to cook if you're cooking them, from scratch, but lentils usually cook really fast.
Okay.
So, they're in the same category and easy to cook and absorb a whole bunch of different flavors.
Awesome.
That's love
great.
It. Yeah.
I do have a cookbook coming out. I don't know if I should, it's in next winter. So I feel like it's forever away, but I think it's supposed to come out in like February to April at some point. So I have my meal plans now on my website that I have, a bunch of different ideas in there, but I've been getting so many requests for like a hard copy, and it just worked out with this publisher. So we've been working together, and actually it's something is on my to-do list right now. I got the final version, like in the the PDF form and the layout. So it's super exciting to see all the pictures with it, because I didn't do my own pictures because I felt that I wasn't like, it's not totally my thing as far as like I can do pictures and they can look nice from the window, but I'm like not really into like the
fancy, the fancy food,
especially for a cookbook. Like I do it mostly on my iPhone, so someone else is doing that.
That's awesome.
So there's going to be 60 recipes in there and like a meal plan ideas, and so I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations!
First off, congrats from us, because that's huge. And second of all, let us know immediately when it's out, because we want to buy one.
Yes. Immediately.
That needs to be in our studio and in our kitchens.
Absolutely, because then we can show people like, hey, we're using it. This is what it looks like. This is how it tastes. Like, show them how the ease of use that it is. Like, that would be a blast.
Well, and you're just such a relatable person that I feel like everybody can kind of take a little bit away from you.
Yeah.
So, and I like that there's going to be a hard copy, because I'm a hard copy type person.
Yep.
Like.
So am I. Honestly, I am. Like when I did the ebooks, I felt like it was just, I was able to provide something because so many people were asking me, and I was like, okay, like I'm just going to do this because going through finding a publisher. Luckily, they came to me, so I didn't have to like go do all that back end work. Because I'm like, it's just a lot of work, like writing up a manuscript and your idea, and I just never felt like that.
Yeah,
I never got to that point. So. But when I had it in the PDF, I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, it's great. Like all my recipes are good, but I think having I like to personally cook with a hard copy. I was just telling my husband that the other day. I was like, I hate when I have to like get out my phone, like undo put my password in and then go do this part of the recipe and then come back and it's like off again. I got to input it in. I'm like, this is so ridiculous.
Yep, exactly. No, I like having like all of my Harry Potter books I have in hard copy because I have them on my ebooks. I have them on my Kindle. Do I read them? No, I read my hard copies because I like having it. I don't know. There's something about it.
And it makes you feel like you're like, I'm doing something.
Yeah.
It's in my hands.
You're a professional.
Yeah. And you said that you have a program, right? What is the program that you have going?
I do. Yeah. It's called Eat with Confidence. And so right now, it's actually the current program is ending next week. And I'm hopefully opening it up again at the end of October, early November.
Okay.
And right now it's a 6 to 12 week program, depending on when you sign in. But you get a whole bunch of different video modules, like over 40 video modules, and teaches you how to cook and how to roughly eat, basically eat after surgery.
Wow.
So there's like a quick start guide to your first 60 days, because I get so many people that are just starting. So there's that in there for them specifically. You get all my meal plans with it. And then the different modules of setting up your foundation. So in the beginning, you do more of like that mindset work, getting your kitchen ready.
Okay.
Not a lot of nutrition information in the beginning. And then the second week, we go back to the basics and we get like all this when you get like the majority of the nutrition information.
Oh, wow.
Then we go into like how to build your meals. And in that, I have like a whole bunch of different templates and like resources where you can try to start building your own meals with my formulas.
Okay.
So try to make it easy. So you can like sub this for that, and going again back to like that confidence in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then how to meal plan and meal prep, like a week on that. And then eating out, because I feel like eating out is like, that has to, it's like a reality of life.
It's going to happen. It's just going to happen.
Yep.
And we need to learn how to deal with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So then you feel good and comfortable, like going into a restaurant, like whether it's Chinese or Japanese or Indian, having an idea of what entrees are going to work best for you. And then the last week is more like long-term strategies, where we talk about mindful eating, we talk about exercise and nutrition. So kind of more of those lifelong habits are in the 6 weeks. So there's just, I try to, I think I included everything for the most part as far as nutrition's related, and considering doing more like mindful eating stuff after that. Because I feel like that's still a really big component that takes like a long, it's not like an overnight thing.
No.
To be that source of support. So,
and where do they sign up? Where does one sign up if they want to do that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's bariatricmealprep.com, and then there's a tab there, and it says courses.
Okay.
And there's a wait list there. I'm not sure when this is airing, but it's there. And I'm hopefully, though, like the goal really is actually to have this more on like an ongoing program that people can sign up to for whatever point they are, instead of having to wait until I open it. Because it's only I've had the program since January 2020, and I've only launched it 3 times.
Okay.
Because of I had a baby and like just variety of reasons.
Yeah. Life is busy.
And so now I'm trying to get it where you can, that you can get it right away. Cause I feel like when someone just has surgery, they want it then, like they don't want it like 6 weeks from now. So I'm trying to get that going.
Perfect.
Well, yeah. Cause even me, I was like, ooh, I could still learn from this thing. Like being post-op, like knowing how to meal prep, like watching someone do it with me and like going through the things, like the motions, I think would help, because it resets everything and makes you go, oh, this is how we do it now.
Yep. Well, and the fact that you're saying like we start with like getting your kitchen ready. Like
I like that.
I don't even know how to get my kitchen ready. So I'm like interested in just that. Like alone. Like I want to know how do I get my kitchen ready?
Yeah. Seriously. That can really help someone.
I always like to tell people that's what the first thing is, because I think everyone's super gung-ho about like cooking and stuff, which I'm super stoked about. But like there's just kind of have to like take a step back and make sure that we're ready to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. I think that's a step that is commonly skipped. Yeah. So awesome. Okay.
Well, is there any tips or tricks that you want to talk about before we go?
Gosh, continue to watch people like you, or listen to people like you.
Thank you.
Stay involved in the community and know that you're not alone, because like there's so many different resources out there, really good paid and really good free. I think there's a variety of different stuff. And if you're willing to and want to learn, there's so many resources out there. So definitely encourage that as much as possible. And don't be worried about the holidays, and, stay connected during the holidays as well. So I know that can be kind of a stress factor for a lot of people, and, really, using the bariatric plate method as much as possible, when you're in there. And I always encourage working with a dietitian or your therapist. I think both are super helpful. And, especially during the holidays.
I would agree.
Yes. I think that's 100% like needed. So
I tell people first, you got to get the mindset right with therapy. Like I really encourage therapy for everyone. Like I just think that's like so important during the process of doing nutrition. I feel like nutrition doesn't work unless you have a good mindset going into it.
Correct. I would completely agree with that.
Oh, that makes sense. Like those go hand in hand.
Yes.
They really do.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen. We appreciate you so much for being on here. And you guys, I mean, you just blew our minds pretty much the whole episode. So we really appreciate it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I feel like I have so much more to ask you, but like we'll have to do that at a different time. Maybe there'll be like a part 2 or something because there's so much.
Up for it, we'll do a part 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, great.
That would be fun.
All right.
Congratulations on everything you're doing. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. All right, guys. Everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.